When Graham Linehan walked into Westminster Magistrates' Court wearing a sandwich board declaring there's no such thing as a transgender child, he's not simply a middle-aged comedy writer facing charges of harassment and criminal damage. He's become a lightning rod in a much bigger dispute, one that pits free speech against personal dignity and satire against harassment. The trial itself is curious. On the one side, an 18-year-old activist, Sophia Brooks, who says she feared vigilante violence after Linehan labelled her a domestic terrorist and a sociopath to his 500,000 followers. She was a teenager, he was a man with reach and cultural authority. On the other side, Linehan insists he was calling out an activist movement he believes is dangerous, not persecuting a child. Yet the evidence shows he posted her photograph, mocked her, and eventually grabbed and damaged her phone. The case forces us to ask, where does vigorous criticism end and harassment begin? Does reach matter? Brooks herself once posted that she wished soup thrown at her opponent had been acid. That's shocking. Or I should say allegedly posted. Distasteful, yes. But to her 30 followers, Linehan's words, by contrast, went to 500,000. The asymmetry of the platform surely changes the ethical stakes. Free speech must allow for offence. Without that, it isn't freedom at all. Satirists from Juvenal to Swift have mocked their targets with cruelty. Yet there's also the principle that free speech is not free license to destroy the life of an individual, especially a young one. Through targeted campaigns, we punch up, we don't punch down. To call a teenager a domestic terrorist to an audience of 500,000 is not satire, or allegedly to call a teenager a domestic terrorist. It risks weaponizing the mob. The police response, however, has raised its own questions. Meeting Linehan off a plane with 5 armed officers, detaining him for 16 hours, imposing bail conditions restricting his ability to tweet, because of 3 tweets. This smacks of overreach as well. It looks like an attempt to police thought rather than crime. And when those tweets were posted outside the UK, the question has to be raised about the reach of British law. And here lies the paradox. The state may be overzealous in pursuing Linehan, but that doesn't mean his conduct was defensible. 2 wrongs don't necessarily make a right. And there's also the law itself. England doesn't criminalise stirring up hatred on the grounds of gender identity, unlike Scotland. The statutes cover race, religion and sexual orientation, but not transgender status. So on what precise offence was Linehan arrested? Even the police seem unsure of that, citing the wrong sections of the Public Order Act, apparently. That confusion itself suggests the law is lagging behind social reality and offers us improvising enforcement on the fly. So what is the moral case? What is the moral in this case? Where does morality stand? I think there are 3 points that can be made. First, satire is not a shield when it becomes personal persecution, particularly when it's punching down. Linehan's great comedy, Father Ted, lampooned institutions, not teenage activists. He's forgotten the difference between mocking a bishop and mocking a vulnerable individual. Second, the police must avoid selective enforcement. When activists wear T-shirts saying, "punch a turf," arrests are rare. When a gender-critical writer says something offensive, 5 armed officers appear at Heathrow. Why did they have to be armed? The double standard corrodes trust. Third, the real debate about free speech is not simply about the right to say what you like, but about the responsibility that comes with amplification. Brooks was wrong to make violent jokes. Linehan was wrong still to unleash an audience of 500,000 against her. In short, free speech is not dead, but it is in danger of being trivialized and reduced. It risks becoming the shield of those who mistake cruelty for wit and the weapon of those who mistake police overreach for tyranny. Linehan's trial is not about a broken phone and some tweets. It's about whether we can sustain a culture in which robust disagreement is possible without lapsing into harassment, and whether the state can regulate such disputes without becoming heavy-handed and partisan. The irony is that Linehan, a man who once wrote some of the sharpest comedy of his generation, has become a symbol not of laughter but of the slow death of proportion, both in what is said online and in how our institutions respond. We need to temper free speech with kindness. We need to temper free speech with caution, and we need to temper policing with proportionality. And I'm afraid the whole trans debate has blown out of proportion. The policing, particularly in the light of the online safety discussions and the idea of the reach of policing, seems to me to be completely out of control. We need to, and part of that is very, very poor, the very poor legal drafting. The laws which were produced are not fit for purpose, and they need to be reworked. We cannot have a law which is based on some sort of vague, a vague sense that wrong has been done. We need to have a specific wrong that has been done if we're going to have a law against it. So we need to have the law needs to be tightened up with specifics, because and I think we also need to be honest about whether Britain should ever have the right to arrest people for crimes allegedly committed outside Britain, even if they can be seen and read in Britain. This is an absurdity. This is an absurdity. It's not as if this is a new problem. This problem has existed ever since books were produced. If a book is published in another country and finds its way into one of our libraries and contains something which is offensive, then should the author be prosecuted? I think not. I think we recognise that is absurd. And it is absurd now. To prosecute somebody for something which is said out of the country is absurd.